Hey YouTube, this is Accyrsed, and welcome back. I'm sorry it's been so long since the last upload. I've been really busy with, well, a lot of stuff. I'm not really going to get into it too much, just a ton of stuff. So I haven't actually been able to get around to posting all too much. I have been working a little bit on the rigger and the compiler, and, well, to give you a general idea, they're much different than they were before. So I'm going to go right ahead and just pop open the rigger. And if you notice, I don't remember exactly what the last upload was, but this now has an entirely set up menu system along with a revamped user interface. I'm pretty sure I only had the open button last time. Now there's also file open script and such. File exit also works, the X button, just goes. If you enter diagnostics, you can see the PMD editor, which allows you to grab the location of PMD editor and determine if you auto run it. The auto run, normally off by default, will check on if you check this box and will open PMD editor the moment you open the rigger, so long as the PMD editor is not already open. If you click open PMD editor, it will open another copy whether or not one already exists. And then you can change the location by clicking the location. Just to show you how that works, I'm actually going to click that. It just explains select the thing. I'm going back under my thing and selecting PMD editor. So now if I go, diagnostics, PMD editor, open, I can get it to work. Visible method diagnostics, this proved to be an issue. I'll get to coding it sometime soon. This was the color of the window for the visible buttons. Like, certain scripts don't work with visible buttons on any computer other than potentially Windows 8. Sorry, it's taken me so long to get to that, but it's kind of one of those obnoxious types of code to write. I mean, I can write it, it's just I have kind of been too lazy to get around to it. And then the remember username, whenever you enter the rigger name here and you have remember username checked, it's normally not checked by default, but I have it turned on mine. This name will automatically be saved, and whenever you reload the rigger, it will automatically put the rigger name in. It doesn't do that with the model, but okay. For other stuff, there's also a help and about. This doesn't do much. It just kind of explains what the versions are that parallel each other. So on the case that, for example, the rigger is version 2.2 and the compiler is just like 1.07 or something. So it'll still be able to distinguish what's with what. Because eventually the rigger is going to be updating and the compiler is probably not. Because the compiler really only handles the encryption and such. The rigger handles everything else. So I can also go view and language, and I'm just going to select French. And now if you look, now the entire menu is French, with the exception of the view button, because I added that after I did the language. I'll get around to that after. Right now, there's only English, French, and Spanish. I did the English and French translations, and then a shout out to Zenny Girl for doing the Spanish translation right here. I'm going back to English, just because. I don't really think there's not much else to see in the visible window here, so I'm going to close this back out and hop over to the compiler, which I don't know why I have two of these open. There. The compiler, I haven't actually changed anything in this, but there's a significant amount. I'm going to clear this for now. So I've been working with what a lot of other programs have, which are these. Variables and if statements. There's also the possibility for a Messagebox and an Inputbox. The variable has to be written as is, same with the if, followed by a then somewhere. But the Messagebox can be like present message or Msgbox, Messagebox, MSG or message, something like that. Inputbox can also be just input. I'm going to comment out these lines so the rigger doesn't actually try reading them. Push them back. Okay, so working with these, they can be a pain a little bit, but you can simply declare the variable, for example, test1 equals, let's just say, 1. And we'll declare, I made a typo. That would not make the variable work. Let's set the test2 also to 1. And let's set test 3 to 2. I'll also set test 4 to equal test 1. If you do a single equal operand here, it will put literally what's on the right. If you put a colon equals, it will try to read it for a variable. So right now, it's storing the value of test 1, which is 1, into test 4. If, for example, you put, I think, let's just do test 5, or test 5, colon equals test 6. Test 6 doesn't exist, so it will just leave test 5 blank, or clear it if it does exist. I'm pretty sure. I haven't actually gone fully into that. Not exactly sure what it does. I'll be honest, I coded it, but I don't know all the quirks to it yet. So let's now do an if statement. If we do a %if, we can check to see, for example, if test1 equals test2. %then, and we're going to do our code %end. So what it does is everything inside this block will be done if test1 equals test2. Well, it does. So let's just say we want to select bone 4. But let's just say if test1 does not equal test2, then bone.select 6, %end. This will now, I don't have a %else, so correct, or not correct. Currently, there's only a few of these operands. There are quite a bit of them as compared to other other programming languages. Usually have maybe 1, maybe 2. Well, this one has the equivalent of like 4 or 5, and there might be more. But that's because they're very particular, and I'm not that great at distinguishing between variable names and strings. So I figured instead of trying to work out how the quotation marks work, I would just make a ton of operands. Sorry for making it more complicated, but it actually works a lot easier. For example, though, if I were to just run this, if test1, and then a quotation mark equals test2, it actually checks to see if the variable test1 equals the string test2. So it would only work if we stored test2 in test1. But currently that command doesn't actually work, so I'm setting that back to 1. There are also message boxes. So if I recall, it simply is, you can put whatever you want. So I'm going to store it in the variable message1. And Windows has this system of numbers for message boxes. I only have this thing capable of working 0 to 6. I'm pretty sure Messagebox 0 is just an OK. Messagebox 1 is an OK cancel. Messagebox 2 is a yes no. And Messagebox 3 is, I think, the retry, abort, cancel, or something like that. There's also a Messagebox 4, 5, and 6, but I don't exactly remember what's what. Let's just say a Messagebox 0 and just say this is a pop-up. This is a pop-up. Now we'll also Messagebox, message 2. Let's just give it an OK, no, a yes, no. We'll just give it the question yes or no. Now it stores the response yes or no in Messagebox 2. The way they work is a matter of these numbers. So if you click OK, it yields, I think it's 0, 0. If you click yes, it yields 0, 1. If you click cancel, it should yield 10. I'm going to just organize this so it fits a little bit better. And if you click no, it should yield, I think it's 11 or something. I'm going to make this a little bit more even so it looks more appealing. Do I need to? Probably not, but just for the sake of this. Okay, and there's also, I believe, Abort, which yields 20, retry 21, and then I think it's ignore 22. I think. I could be slightly wrong with that one, but those are the return codes for all of this. So it will store one of these numbers inside, for example, message 2. Since it's yes or no, it's going to be a yes or no box. It's either going to be 0, 1, or 11. on the case that there's like a yes, no, cancel, we need to be able to distinguish between no and cancel if it makes a difference. Oops. Ignore that, I just hit something in the background. So now we can do another if statement. Let's just say, oops, I forgot the %. The % is necessary just so it doesn't think it's an actual method. It thinks it's a different type of thing. I know it's going to look weird with all the %, but if you recall from previous videos, there's the octothorpe, which can be done with the info and delay. So I'm now going to go back to our if, and let's just say if I don't have it working with strings, so just for now, bear with me. I'm going to declare a variable. I don't need to usually, but let's just say variable, I don't know, answer yes, and we're going to store 01 in it. If message2 equals answer yes, and then end. So if it now equals yes, it's going to bone.coordinates. It's going to put the coordinates of bone 4 if bone 4 was selected, which means if test1 equals test2, which it does, it will select bone 4 up here. I feel stupid, I was pointing with my finger, that doesn't work. It will select bone 4 up here, come down, and then be determined by this message box pop up here. If the user clicks yes, so if the message2 here equals answer yes, which matches yes right here, then we'll set the bone coordinates to 0, 10, 0. But let's just say if message2 does not equal answer yes, or you could just do simply if it equals answer no, then bone.coordinates 10, 0, 0, %end. Now that's all completely dependent on the input of the message box. But what now also comes up is the fact that there is not just Messagebox, there is an input box. So if I run the input box, there are 2 other arguments just like the message box, which is a variable and then a true or a false. I'll explain what the true or false does in a minute. So I'm just going to call it inp1 for start input1, and then we're going to say false. This true or false determines if it acts as a password. If it acts as a password, it blocks out the box and does the little asterisks when the user types in. But that's not really of something that I need to test right now. I actually don't know if it works. If not, I'll rework the code so that it does. I'm calling a variable for within the method that probably can't accept variables. So if that doesn't work, then oh well. Now I'm just going to input the word hi. Now if the user inputs the word hi, it will store the word hi inside input1 or inp1. But if the user types anything else, it will also store it in there, but we're going to use if inp1 equals, again, I have to declare another variable. This won't be required soon. You'll be able to do this soon, and then you could do that, but currently this doesn't work, so I'm going to do that. Variable input hi equals hi. If that equals input hi, then if you're curious why it has to be a % then and not a normal then, on the case that input the word hi then, or I don't know, something in the if input1 equals then. I don't really think that's going to happen, but if the variable gets named then, it would trigger an issue at the exact same time and probably break the program. So instead I've distinguished % then. Although, I guess variables can have the % in them, so long as they don't equal % then or % if, or any of the other % things. I might fix that soon, but for now, it works. So I'm going to now declare the block again. And if somebody wrote hi, I'm just going to select bone. What was the highest one I got? 6, so I'll do 5. If you look at this looks kind of complicated, but in theory, it only does about 4 things. But this allows scripts to become so much more effective. I don't really know how to put it any other way. So I'm going to now call it variable percent stuff. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to put my generic stuff down. Give it a version 1.0. I'm going to call it no model. It still requires PMD editor to run whether or not it's working with just message boxes. That's kind of a core requirement, and I'm probably not going to change that on the case that I maybe could eventually with a maybe require PMD false, but that does not work, and any script that does not have it would still run PMD, but I'm not bothering with that right now. I'm going to save script as, ignore that. I have debugging stuff on currently, so it's going to throw some... I made a stupid mistake. 1 second. If you would excuse me for a moment. Version. Okay, sorry about that. I had a slight issue. I'm now going to save as again. Ignore that. There we go. I saw the word error. It's supposed to say CC58. Each version gets its own set of 4-bit long hexadecimal code that determines the version number that it appends to the script after it's encrypted. So it's the only unencrypted part, but I'm kind of indifferent to it. It doesn't need to be encrypted. That's the particular version that the program is working with. If the version does not match, it will say the script was made for a different version and prompt the user if they want to, or if he or she wants to open it, regardless of the fact that it's made in a different version. Some of the scripts that I made previously were made with Beta 5, so it changes a little bit because there's stuff added in Beta 6, but that's about it, I think. So they have or backward compatibility usually, but not forward compatibility. Sometimes they don't, though. I needed to save this under the tutorials, and I'm going to call this variables test. So now I'm going to save it. Before I close this out, this is a bug that's been coming up with the rigger. I don't know where it is. I'm attempting to pinpoint it, but I don't exactly know where. So I'll get to it eventually. Sometimes when saving the scripts, especially saving over previous scripts, it messes up in the encryption or something, or decryption, and it actually can't be read. It leaves this blank over here, and the rigger does nothing. So anyway, I'm going to choose the... Oh, I already chose the PMD editor location, so I have to re-choose it. Whoops. I forgot to open PMD editor is what I wanted. So I'm just going to show that it works. I'm going to open it. No, the diagnostics, that did not actually open. The open PMD editor button opened it, just to specify. This should be just another moment, I think. I think it's just the fact that I'm recording. Yeah. Takes a little bit. Not sure why. Should be a little quicker than this, but I will. Okay, there we go. That's not really even necessary. Only that window is truly necessary for this. So I'm going to click OK and see what happens. These are debugging things. It's not going to show in the actual version. It just says that... I don't remember what it did. Oh. It would help if I made the bones. Sorry, I wasn't not paying attention. I'm closing that out and making the bones that are required for this. I was wondering why this didn't seem to be working correctly. So, just to prove it, I'm going to make 7 bones since the last I selected was 6. So now there's 7. I'll select bones 0, reopen the rigger, reopen the file. And see what happens. Oops. see, since the, if you recall in the compiler script, we said if test1 equals test2, then select bone4. So it selected bone4. Now if I go back over here, for the next set, I forgot to remove this from the debugging, so it's going to show up. So if test1 does not equal test2, then it will select bone6. Well, right now it says it equals bone2, so I'm going to reselect this so it doesn't mess up with that. It did not do anything. It did not select bone6, even though it does specifically say bone.select 6. This is now completely invalid because test1 does not equal test2. So now Messagebox, message 1. This is a pop-up. You notice right here, this is a pop-up. We have a slight issue that I just noticed. The first bit of punctuation breaks the, breaks it. I don't really know how to put it. It just, the first piece of, the first period will break the thing. So I might have to make it so that instead of a period, it happens to be a double comma or something. I know that sounds really stupid, but the period is kind of an iffy thing to work with because it works with a method right here, bone.select, and it reads the method before it reads these, or it reads these, I think, before, but not after it's split for the method. So I'm just going to have to work with something else. Also, I might also be able to do that, but I honestly think that like a double comma would be easier, or like an ampersand and then a comma, be a period. Not exactly sure yet. I think I like the double comma though. I'm probably going to implement that very soon. So in technicality, if you want a period then a comma, you do a double comma and then a comma. But you can't do a comma and then a period. Whatever. That's not really relevant. Anyway, that does not fully work. Sorry about that. That doesn't fully work as I just stated, but oh well. So now I'm going to click OK, and it's going to store the, if you look here, it stores, ignore that this is a pop-up, that's the message that came up, but it stores the value 00 in message 1. So if I go continue, it'll say yes or no. Oh, I made a typo. Yeah, see, abort, retry, ignore. I made a slight mistake, and Messagebox 2 is not yes or no. This is abort, retry, ignore. So no matter what we click, it will not set the bone coordinates to 0, 10, 0, because it does not equal yes. It's going to set them to 10, 0, 0. If you want, see what I mean. I'm just going to click retry, and it responded 21. So it does not equal, it will say true, and it just set 10, 0, 0. So it says input the word hi, so just for the sake of it, I will, and it will select the bone 5. That's basically how these if statements work. I'm going to go back and mildly mend this just to show you that the answer yes. Let's just say if you do ignore, which is 22, we're going to say if it's ignored, then set it to 0, 10, 0. If it's not ignored, then set it to 10, 0, 0. And simply put, let's just save as. I'm going to save it as 1.1 because there's this bug going around with these things that sometimes overwriting the same script causes an annoying issue. I'm just going to re-close that, reopen it. This sometimes prevents the issue, sometimes. Okay, we're good. It's just on occasion this thing won't be readable, as I stated. I'm just going to click OK. It just selected bone 4 because test 1 equals test 2. I probably should have swapped the 2 so you know what I mean. But you saw witness to the fact that if it doesn't equal, it does not select bone 6. So it's kind of the same thing. This is a pop-up stores there. Yes or no. So what did I say? Ignore, I think? Yeah. When answer, ignore. So now I'm just going to click ignore. Stores 22. Go OK. 0, 10, 0 instead, if you notice. Now it equals, so it cannot do the next part. It won't actually be spitting up these random pop-ups after. I just kind of sloppily compiled this and wanted to get a video out for it. So let's just say we write the word word instead of the word hi. It will not select bone 5. Pretty cool, right? This was a pain. I must say, I commend whoever came up with the thought of putting if statements in a normal coding language like Java or something, especially if Java is based off of nothing at all. Like, I don't really know how they work. Like, the base coding languages, actually, how they are built. I don't understand that. But I have to commend whoever managed to input the if statement. Because I've tried, and these if statements take about 50 of the if statements in a coding language on top of about 2 arrays and a ton of weird logic. They're done, I think. And I'm glad. Sort of. This is very basic stuff. Eventually, I'm going to be working into a little bit more complicated stuff. For example, picture. Actually, no, not that. Drop list. For example, we can store drop 1, and it will now have the options of, for example, 1, 16, pi, and the word derp. So it will create a drop list as like this thing with 4 options: 1, 16, pi, and derp. And whatever one is chosen inside the box, it will store in drop 1. There will also be a picture box. I'm just going to do pick 1. And this is a... Oh, actually, I forgot. I made a slight mistake. It would be pick 1, and then the rest. So it will now essentially label it, or label the first thing pick 1. Label the drop list pick 1. Just like that's... well, that's his override script delay, so it would say drop list there. Or pick 1, I mean. Sorry, I'm spacing out. And it would have the 1, 16, pi, and derp on it. Picking 1 would store one of these 4 here into the drop 1. Then you could also do the same thing. Pick a picture, and then it would just be like, see, eventually, I'm not writing this correctly. Desktop slash, just gonna get rid of the C. Desktop slash pick1.png. Desktop slash backslash pick2.png. So this would open a pop-up box. These will have their own class, so they'll be a weird runnable file that you probably could mess with. I would strongly advise against it, because it probably will break if it's not run correctly, because I don't know exactly how I'm doing this, but anyway. It will open up a box with, in this case, it would have 2 pictures on it. It would just say, pick a picture at the top, and have like a radio button below each picture. Like, looks like that, but it's a little circular one where you only can check 1. And then it will grab the photo on your desktop called pick1.png, and it will, for the left photo, and grab pick2.png for the right. You can probably do that for up to like 6 photos, or maybe even more. I don't really know what my algorithm's going to be. I don't know if there's going to be a limit, or if I could actually go on to infinity. Probably can just go on to infinity. It's just going to make smaller and smaller photos and slightly larger window sizes, maybe. So that's about all I have. On that note, actually, it was a switch that was suggested to me. For example, we could do a switch on test 1. And I don't remember exactly what a switch looks like in Java. So if you'll excuse me for about 3 seconds, I'm going to look up what a Java switch looks like. Probably would help if I knew. Probably should have prepared ahead of time, but I didn't think I was actually going to get around to this. So I kind of just forgot about it. I don't remember. Oh, it was switch case. That's what it was. So let's just say case 0, case 1, case 2, end. So what this will do is if test1 equals 0, it will do all the code here and not do any of this. if, well, it does the end no matter what. If test1 equals 1, it will do this code here, and then the end. If test1 equals 2, it will do this code here, and the end. But it will not do any of the other ones. It's kind of just like a, I don't really know what to call it. Kind of just want to call it like a glorified if mess. It's basically a lot better way of writing a ton of if statements. So instead of doing whether it equals answer ignore or not, actually, I guess it all depends. I mean, you could do a switch for if message 2, or a switch on message 2. Let's just explain that for a second. Let's just do message 2 case answer. Let's just say there was the retry answer ignore and answer abort. I don't remember what's what. Abort, retry, and ignore. So it would base on what you picked, so long as you defined, the only defined one right here is answer ignore, so these two wouldn't actually work currently. But you kind of get the point. It's very, I don't actually want to call it basic right now. It actually works. I just spent a few hours on this before, and I really confused myself with it, but oh well, it works. I'm glad to say that it works. Don't know how I did it. Again, I really don't know. I would put the chunk of code up on the screen right now, but should I? The heck. I'll do it. Give me a second. Yeah, I work with, I'm not going to exactly, if any of you knows what that is, or if any of you know what that is, that's fine. Ignore this, ignore that, ignore that. I'll show you what an if statement looks like. Okay, if it's an if statement, it will basically scroll through the if statement, checking to see what it is. One of the 5 methods, as I said, equals variable, does not equal variable, equals string, greater than or equal to number, less than or equal to number. Those are for variables only, I think. They'll eventually work with numbers too, but the variable always has to be on the left. Or on the left and the right. It just can't be a number on the left. Unless the number is a variable, but that won't work. I've also started to build an error list, so every time it throws an issue, for example, if, in this case, this error is triggered if, the wrong one, if, for example, it throws, if you try to do this, give me a second, if test1 equals test2, test3, then. That is an unnecessary argument. It will not work, and I think it still works normally, but it prints out the error saying it failed, or it failed to make use of that argument because it could not use that many arguments in an if statement. And then in the end, it will print it out in an error thing if it has anything more than just this program caused these errors. I'm working on it a little bit. And then it goes through its storage, checking to see if they equal or not based on the context of what the program is trying to do. And then when it gets down here, actually that's about it. It looked a lot more of a mess before, but it's a bit more complicated than it looks. It basically gives it its unique ID, and then I have a weird train of logic with this, but it works. It's a if you have an if statement in an if statement, for example, I'm just going to make one here. Let's just say if test3 equals test4, then end. It will be able to keep track of both these if statements at the same time. If test1 equals test2, then if test3 equals test4, then. This will only happen if both test3 equals test4 and test1 equals test2. But this will happen regardless of this, because even if this locks the code for the equivalent of these 2 lines, it will free up there. This will, if this fails, it locks the code for these 5 lines, so it will free up there. Even if this does not lock up and this does, this will still count down, and so will this. So when this counts down to 0, down here, this will still be down to 2. And it will be able to still count down its 2, and then reach 0, continuing its if statement. It may look weird, but my logic is the moment one fails, anything in it is not going to work. So if there's a single failed if statement, the program can't run. The moment that failed if statement becomes like passable, the program passes it, it will continue working, even if it means that other working if statements before it have failed working. I don't think that's a possible alternative, but it might. So, on that note, I can leave this somewhere for the sake of looking at, but I don't really know if that's worth anything, this little thing. I'll put it in the description. So if any of you want to test this out when Beta 6 actually comes out, this is just a test of Beta 6. It's still a little buggy, it's got development stuff on it, it's not a full release. But I figured I would show all of you the progress that I have. A bit of progress, actually. Okay, a ton of progress. Yep, but oh well. I figured it would be worth pulling up. It's kind of I haven't done an upload in forever, because I haven't had much time. I had so much going on. But figured I'd get something out. I'm honestly looking for suggestions. It was one of those, the if statements sort of came to mind, but I've been receiving suggestions from them. Shout out time. Give me a minute. Doing more shoutouts. Just because I can. Well, okay, this is one shoutout. Specifically for helping a ton with this program. In terms of testing suggestions and making scripts. So, I haven't actually said much, because I haven't done many uploads. Shoutout time. Regretfully, my internet is slow, so a shout out to Zenny for helping me so much with this program. I probably would not be where I am without this help. So, thank you. Go check out her channel. It is awesome. And thank you very much if you are watching. Yep. I don't think that there is anything else that I needed to really explain in this, other than the fact that I butchered this up and did not give a configuration file that spits out the version, so that's broken. The config file messes up and the program crashes if the english.emrlan cannot be located, but it tries to locate it as english.lang, which will break the program. I'm honestly a very amateur coder, but I've mostly just self-taught. About 90% self-taught, 9% internet tutorials on very basic things that got me programming in the first place, and about 1% of a class. I kind of already knew what was going on and built an RPG in about 70 hours for the final part of the class. The goal, build a basic game. If you felt challenged, make Tetris. And I was kind of like, Tetris. And I pumped out a 45-minute long or so RPG, complete with a level system and mildly sentient enemies. But I don't know why I'm talking about this when I'm making a rigor program. I just went on a really long tangent. Sorry about that. I don't think there is much else to say, other than the fact that actually I have another channel. If anyone wants to check out my other channel, I'm pretty sure this is just my other channel. I'm going to make sure, but I'm 99% sure. This is a gaming channel. Yeah, I didn't do an upload in here in a while, but it's just youtube.com/Accyrsed without the MMD part. Just go to my channel here and drop the MMD, and this is gaming videos. If anyone is interested in gaming videos, I don't put them up nearly as often as this, which probably terrible because I rarely put these up, but I've been really busy. Over the summer, I expect to put a ton out, or at least some, along with finish this program. Well, not finish, but get a reasonable version out that I can actually leave it alone for a little while, and maybe get to making my own these videos. But the time I've been working on MMD and PMD and all that has been working on this program alone. So, anyway, thanks for watching. On that note, I will probably have another upload soon with the progress of this thing, the rigger. No promises, because I don't know exactly when and where I'm going to get, because I have a tendency to kick up bugs by mistake, and when I kick up bugs, they take anywhere from a few minutes to a few hours to fix, and a few hours in making this thing takes a while. Like, this whole if statement thing really only took just a few hours, but still, it was a pain. Rewarding, but a pain. Anyway, thanks for watching. Also, on that note, I actually want to say thank you all of you who have actually subscribed to me, because now I'm up to, I think it's 128. I remember when I was down to like 5 at one point, and I'm pretty sure those were all myself, all my other channels. So, thank you. I mean, it means a lot, especially since at this time on YouTube, it's kind of a it's difficult finding ways to get noticed. It's kind of just, I want to get this out here to help, and honestly, thank you all of you for helping get it out there. I mean, I'm up to 12,000 views or something, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, even then, I'm pretty sure I'm up to nearly 10. Is it 10,000 on a single thing? It's some ridiculous amount, which is just a ton. I don't even understand if that's possible, especially since I made a channel with 100 and something videos and got nowhere. I'm just gonna pop over to my dashboard and show you what I mean. Might as well. Yeah, look, 12,000 views, 128 of you. So thank you. And I mean, kind of getting somewhere. In retrospect, my recent videos only get about 100 and something views. I get it, because it's the rigger, and I'm pretty sure none of you want to see the rigger, but those of you who have been watching for it, I thank you. I might do a normal video at some point, going down the list, as you can see. Oh. Okay, I stand corrected. 3,000 views. And then a few thousand in each. But I mean, if you look up 12,000 views, that's pretty remarkable. Especially for me. I worked on another channel for several years, I'm pretty sure 2 or 3, and I managed to barely hit 2,000 views. I had 105 videos. So, it means a lot. I was going to do 100 and something subscriber special, and then I needed someone's help for it. I was going to have work with the... Actually, I'm not going to say. I might do that at 150. Maybe. Or 200. If not either of those, 250. I know, that sounds really far. So maybe 150. I was going to do something special, and then I didn't really have the time, and I needed help with it. Couldn't get anyone to help, so... Oh well. Wow, I just think I did a 3-minute outro. This is much longer than I had anticipated. I'll say it as it is. I don't have an outro, so I will ramble on. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll probably do an upload soon. And, see you.